Hi, my name is Tim Morris. I'm a commercial real estate advisor with Newmark Knight Frank, and I'm here today to introduce Scott Applebaum of Context Therapeutics.
When we acquired Anapristone in December of 2017, we bought it from a company that was winding down. We acquired this asset and everything that came along with it, including all the data that had been generated, all the regulatory filings, all of the clinical drug supply that's still in existence. And the drug had been studied for a number of different types of cancer. Initially, and it was studied a while ago, in the mid-1990s by a company called Shearing AG. It was being developed as an oral contraceptive. At the time, there was some research being published that talked about the role of the progesterone receptor in breast cancer. And it was thought that if you were able to slow or shut that down with an agent, that you may be able to slow down or reverse the effect of breast cancer. So Shearing conducted 2 studies with Anapristone. Anapristone is a pure antiprogestin. There are other antiprogestins that are combination agonist or antagonist, but Anapristone is the only pure antagonist. So it was studied in 2 different trials in the mid-90s. One trial had 19 patients, the other had 101 patients. Out of these 2 trials, the 120 patients, they showed really positive and interesting clinical benefits for these women who had breast cancer. And these are patients who had metastatic breast cancer. The results were really positive. Shearing, however, as a company, made some strategic decisions to not advance it as an oral contraceptive, and with that, all the funding went for the breast cancer studies as well. And basically, they just kind of left it behind. And we're kind of stunned by talking to the people who were involved at the time. We've spoken to the person who was the lead investigator on the breast cancer trials. He's now a rather prominent breast cancer researcher in the UK. His name is John Robertson. He said he was really disappointed and stunned that Shearing discontinued development, rather just, he felt kind of rapidly and without much of an explanation when he was studying the drug. And we've now reconnected with him, and he wants to work with us to resurrect the drug and get it back into the clinic in breast cancer trials. So that's an important piece of the story, is the initial studies that were done in the mid-1990s. The second piece of the story is how the drug was picked up by the company from which we acquired the drug. That company was called Therapeutics. They had taken a look at the data that was out there and said, there's something interesting here. We want to pursue this. A couple hurdles in their way were that they had no drug supply. They had to find a way to manufacture it. It was difficult to manufacture it. They spent a fair amount of money, came up with a better manufacturing process, and as a result, were actually able to create a slightly different version of the drug. It was a more pure form of the drug, and it was an extended release version of the drug. And this actually becomes pretty important because people have learned over the last 20 or 25 years, as the progesterone receptor impacts breast cancer, the goal is to shut it down for a 24-hour cycle and keep it shut down. The drug that was studied by Shearing initially was an immediate release version of the drug, and it had a short half-life. So it meant by the end of maybe 4 or 6 hours, they weren't getting full coverage on the receptor. Arno reformulated the drug, extended release, and decided to dose it twice a day, which effectively shuts down and covers that progesterone receptor for 24 hours. So with a lower dose given twice a day and an extended release version, they're able to get full coverage. From a pharmacokinetic aspect, this is important, and we think will lead to even better results than the ones we saw Shearing had from the mid-1990s. The other thing Arno did was they did phase 1 studies in multiple tumor types, and then they started a phase 2 study in prostate cancer. That's where their story kind of ends, because they had a difficult time enrolling the study in prostate cancer based on requirements for the study, including taking bone biopsies, which are difficult and painful, and patients were not really willing to undergo it. And the science wasn't really leading them to prostate cancer. There were other reasons where they had hypotheses, but if they We think they would have been more successful had they stuck to breast cancer